What's going on, guys, and welcome back to today's discussion video where I'm going to be breaking down, where I'm going to be giving you guys some of my initial thoughts and impressions on the most recent Transformers Hasbro fan stream, where they went ahead and dropped a shed ton of reveals for both Transformers Studio Series Rise of the Beasts and Transformers Legacy Evolution Wave 4. And I think it's safe to say that this was probably their most stacked stream out of this year so far. I mean, at one point it was literally like they were just dropping banger after banger after banger. So definitely a lot to talk about in today's video, and where best to start off with other than with the smallest scale class, that being Core Class. And this is a reveal which I don't think any of us saw coming. It's kind of a Core Class playset, so basically you get a reissue / repaint of the Bumblebee and Optimus Prime, which we've seen featured in Kingdom and Buzzworthy Bumblebee, although this time Prime includes his Energon axe and a proper full-blown G1 trailer. Now, is this an item which gets me super pumped? Honestly, no, because I don't think these two Core Class figures are the best that we've seen out of the line. I'm not really happy about getting duplicates of them in the collection. Personally, what I instead would have liked to have seen would have just been the trailer individually released with a shed ton of accessories. You know, they kind of could have done a Core Class accessory pack like we've seen in past years, you know, where they've given us blast effect packs, etc. They could have finally given us Skywarp's Null Rays. They could have packaged in Prime's Energon axe, and you know what, maybe they could have given us some accessories for the Core Class Dinobots, especially some of the first ones we saw where Sludge didn't include nothing and they came with really weird blasters. I definitely would have taken that over this multi-pack. So yeah, I'm not entirely convinced I'm going to pick this up until I see the price point, because definitely not a huge fan of those two Core Class molds. But yeah, the trailer definitely does look awesome. Dare I say, slightly more toon accurate than as opposed to the Earthrise version. And they weren't done with Core Class. They also touched base on the final Dinobot that we need in order to complete Volcanicus, and it is Dinobot Snarl, as all of us could have guessed. Awesome looking figure. You know, they did kind of mention how as the waves progressed, they kind of found their footings with these Core Class Dinobots, which is why we've progressively seen improvement wave after wave after wave, and I do think he looks to be the best one yet. You know, I didn't think they could top Swoop, but Snarl looks incredible, especially in robot mode, and when you factor in the price point and that he's essentially a triple changer, yeah, he looks sick. Even the Dino mode don't look too bad. I mean, there's a bit of kibble kind of hanging out on the rear legs, but besides that, I think he looks awesome, and we got our first proper official look of the finished Volcanicus, and it looks okay. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of how Snarl kind of forms this massive red block. It definitely does stick out like a sore thumb, but now we've completed the Dinobot, I'm just waiting for that inevitable Dino King repaint / retool, as I definitely think that is where we're going to see these molds really meet their potential. And then we get stuck into some of the Transformers Legacy mainline reveal. So we've got Shadow Striker, already reviewed her, so definitely be sure to check that out if you want a slightly more in-depth look at the character. But then they went ahead and dropped our final kind of main Insecticon, that being Bombshell, and I'm so happy to see this guy kind of released back to back with Shrapnel, because I was under the impression that they were going to spread these Insecticons across 3 years, but to see him essentially release 2 waves after Shrapnel is awesome. And yeah, it's a really cool looking figure. Now, they kind of tweaked the color scheme when in comparison to how he appeared in G1. They basically said they didn't want to release a concrete kind of grey looking Insecticon. I completely understand that. I mean, it would have looked super boring in terms of a visual representation, and I do like the color scheme. I think it looks sick, especially with that kind of clear plastic with the spray painted silver over the top. Really does match what we've seen already from both Kickback and Shrapnel, but the repaint potential that we're going to be seeing out of these Insecticons is just crazy. I mean, this to me screams retool. As soon as we get this guy, dare I say, we're going to get a multi-pack of different heads and all kind of things. Perhaps it's a Buzzworthy Bumblebee exclusive, and yeah, I may pick it up, because I do think these Insecticons, without a doubt, have been some of the best official versions of themselves that we've seen Hasbro release, and it's super sick to get them finally in the Deluxe class scale. But yeah, this guy in both Insect mode and Robot mode look awesome, especially with that kind of crazy looking headpiece that Bombshell has. Cannot wait to get this guy in the collection. But I would say honestly that one of the biggest standout reveals for me was the RID Strong Arm, and she looks incredible. I believe it's RID, maybe it's Bumblebee Adventures, I'm not too sure, but banging looking figure, you know. She's a slight departure from what we saw in the show, but way more faithful than we saw from the Prime Universe RC, and they are using the Legacy Elite 1 as a mold basis. Gonna go ahead and say it, I think this is the best reuse of that mold that we've seen as of yet. She looks sick, you know, the amount of detail and the paintwork that they packed into her face sculpt for a Deluxe class is kind of crazy. I mean, you can see we've kind of got those green lips, the green eyes, all kind of a very light blue, I guess you could say, but I like all of the detail that we have kind of on the side of the helmet. It just looks incredible. They appear to have retooled quite a bit, especially where the shoulders are, but yeah, she looks awesome, and she will include a proper animation accurate blaster. And as we get stuck into the vehicle mode, again, kind of a nice homage to her original design. I think she looks great, definitely one of the deluxe class figures that I'm probably the most excited to check out, because as I said, she's just turned out so much nicer than I was expecting. And then we get stuck into a very obscure character, and still, guys, I know I've been banging on about this for the best part of a year. I still can't properly pronounce his name. I think it's Detritus, not entirely sure, but basically the biggest takeaway I got from this reveal is that finally we're getting a proper in-hand look at that Studio Series 86 Hound mold, which was shown off in like October of last year. This definitely does appear to be a recolor of that mold, so undoubtedly this is the mold that we'll see for that character, and I think it looks pretty cool. Now, considering this will be turned into a Studio Series 86 figure, I was kind of hoping they'd go a little further in terms of the retooling, because it basically does just seem to be a reskin of the Hound mold that we saw released as part of Siege. So the transformation looks to be identical, but yeah, definitely looking awesome. You know, he comes with two sick, very G1 accurate looking weapons, and despite this not being a character which personally I'm too familiar with, I do quite like the color deco. You know, they touched base with how he'll have an Autobot logo in bot mode and a Decepticon insignia in vehicle mode, because he's supposed to be kind of a weapons arm dealer, which I think is a pretty kind of cool backstory for this guy. But yeah, the Jeep mode does just look super sick. So yeah, very much so looking forward to him. And that pretty much wrapped it up in terms of the Lux class reveal. So then they got stuck into some Voyagers, and unfortunately we're kind of starting this segment off with a slightly low note. We've got Bludgeon, which on paper sounds insane. You know, when we began to see a few leaked listings, I was so excited to get a legacy version of Bludgeon into the collection. Unfortunately, it's basically just a repaint of Tarn that we saw packaged in the first wave, with a new head sculpt and a sword accessory. Now, Tarn is an amazing mold, but personally, I just don't think it works out too well for Bludgeon. You know, Bludgeon, I definitely think deserved his own mold. You know, he definitely did deserve that treatment in my opinion, but the recolors look okay. You know, the brand new head sculpt does look sick. What I will say is that he looks 1,000 times better posed and in hand than as opposed to some of the stock photos that we saw of him. So, will I pick this up? Undoubtedly yes, but is it the Bludgeon figure that I think we deserve, considering that it's been so long since we've seen a mainline Bludgeon? Definitely not. I do wish maybe they could have retooled a few more pieces to make it slightly more distinctive, or just waited until Legacy Year 3 to give us a brand new mold. And then we get stuck into our final Junkion for Legacy Evolution, and it's Trash Master. Now, this is the only Voyager Junkion which I think we've so far seen for Legacy. The second I saw it, I thought, you know, they could either retool this into two characters. First of all, I thought maybe they could kind of give us that conceptualized Rise of the Beasts, kind of smash changes Optimus Prime design out of that. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing it, but definitely this is going to be retooled into an animated Rat-Gar. It just screams animated Rat-Gar to me, but yeah, looks really awesome in robot mode. I love that kind of massive claw attachment that he has smacked onto the right arm, and the designer kind of teased that there may be a combined mode with all of the Junkions that you can do once you pick this guy up, which I'm very much so excited to see. And if they've had that kind of cooking on the back burner, that's going to be a super nice Easter egg to kind of sneak in there with this final Junkion. But vehicle mode again looks awesome. You know, literally does live up to the name of Trash Master, because it does seem to be kind of a souped up Cybertronian junk truck. But yeah, really like this guy, definitely ending the Voyagers on a high note, whereas had they only released Bludgeon, they definitely would have been ending things on a low note. And then to kind of round off the final wave of Legacy Wave 4, we've got Dreadwing, who is a leader class, basically for the most part a straight up repaint of Skyquake, who we recently got revealed and who I have reviewed over on the channel, so definitely be sure to check that out, because I think probably one of the best leader class molds that we've seen from Legacy. But yeah, this was the repaint that I was waiting for. You know, Dreadwing had a way more substantial role than Skyquake in the Prime series, so definitely excited to pick this figure up. And now we're going to get stuck into a few of the Buzzworthy Bumblebee exclusive packs. And personally, my favourite one has got to be the Autobot Death Shuttle sequence. So they've essentially given us two repaints slash retools of the Studio Series 86 Ironhide and the Earthrise Prowl. This time both of them have been given kind of a slightly more 86 accurate colour deco, in the sense that they've removed all of the transparent plastic, much like we saw from the 86 Brawn, which I'm definitely in favour of. And they've given Ironhide his yellow stripe. Now, why they've given it it here to the death version and not the actual version that we saw released individually last year is completely beyond me, because my excuse was they couldn't give us that yellow stripe due to the way he transformed, but clearly they could have, and it doesn't really make sense for the death version of Ironhide to have this, considering he never transformed. But I really like some of the battle damage pieces we have here, especially on that Ironhide, you know, with the shad windshield and all of the kind of internals going on. I love all of that sick detail. Definitely cannot wait to get this guy into the collection. And if you missed out on the Earthrise Prowl, in some ways this pack is good, but in other ways it does kind of suck, because again, not only has it been released with an Ironhide, but it's not a proper clean version of Prowl. You know, if you get him in the collection, he's going to have this kind of screaming death-like face, and he's going to have a massive chunk of battle damage kind of taken out of his chest. So yeah, that does kind of suck, but I am glad to get this variant into the collection. It does include a pair of blast effects, so you know, you can really recreate where they get blasted and decimated through the chest, which I thought was pretty sick. Next up, we have something which I don't think I would have ever expected Hasbro to do, and it's a multi-pack of 4 troop builders. So we get a Quintesson Guard, which can be transformed into an Alicon. We also get a G-Axis kind of trooper. There's a Seeker, which basically looks like a Thundercracker reissue in my opinion. And they also gave us, I want to say this is an animated Autobot trooper. I'm not entirely sure. Is this a 4-pack which I'm likely to collect? Honestly, no, because I already own so many versions of these molds, and I'm not the biggest fan of the Skullgrin mold, which is where the G-Axis troop is based from. So honestly, I do think I'm more than likely going to be giving this a pass unless I see it in person. If I see it in person, maybe I'll change my mind, but I can see this being great for some of you guys, but for me, yeah, it's just not kind of cutting it, not gonna lie. And then to kind of round things off for Generations/Legacy, they finally gave us an official reveal for the VNR Volvo Optimus Prime, which was released months ago. I've had a review up on the channel for it for a long time. Great repaint, you know, I definitely think the best version of the Holiday Optimus Prime mold we've seen. And finally, we got an official reveal for Antagony, who, yes, is an Inferno repaint, as we all expected. And initially, I thought they were just going to keep the Inferno head sculpt, but luckily they have included an additional scavenger version, which I think really does kind of sell this piece for me, because had it not included that head sculpt, I definitely wouldn't have picked it up. But now we're going to get stuck into my personal favourite part of the live stream, and I'm pretty certain it's the reason why you guys clicked on this video. We finally got some more official Studio Series reveals. So to kickstart things off with, this is already one which we technically saw revealed via a few CG renders way back in February. So awesome to actually see this product in hand, as it's a character which personally I don't really think has been given justice to, and it is the Rise of the Beast Studio Series Mirage. Now, to start things off with, they did showcase a few product shots of Mirage in both vehicle mode, which I think looks great, and in robot mode. And you know, when I saw this official product shot of him in bot mode, my thoughts still remain the same. I thought it looked awful, but then they smacked him on the turnaround, and yeah, he looks so much nicer than their official photography. You know, to actually see this figure in hand with the backpack properly transformed, and to see all of the different angles, especially of the chest design, yeah, this is going to be better than the mainline version, which is a discussion I know I've had on the channel and many of you guys have been talking about over the past few months. This really does look awesome. Now, still not 100% perfect. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of how he does kind of have the Porsche doors hanging off the hips, but besides that, the detail, especially packed into the chest, just looks near enough smack on to what we saw in the movie, and I am so happy with his chest design. You know, still not 100% perfect, but definitely way better than many of us was expecting. And yeah, I like how they included the plasma cannon. Super awesome to see Mirage get a figure, which I think kind of does the character model justice, because he was such a huge standout character in the movie, and the Porsche vehicle mode just looked 10 out of 10. I mean, it may even be one of the nicest Studio Series vehicle modes which I think we've had out of the entire line. Not only will it be given a complete metallic silver spray deco, but yes, they're keeping the clear plastic windows. Considering they're painting the majority of this, I don't think there is anything to worry about in terms of mismatched colours, which is sick, and they just appear to have got all of the details down to the blue racing stripes down to a T. So yeah, way more excited now for this Studio Series Mirage than I had been, but that wasn't even the biggest reveal, because the character which I know all of us have been eagerly anticipating would have to be the next Studio Series leader class, and it is Optimus Primal. So first of all, we're going to be talking about the Beast mode. Upon first glance, I thought it looked really cool. You know, the amount of detail they were able to pack into his head sculpt, much like Mirage, appears to be smack on to the CGI design that we saw in the movie. I do like that he's big and chunky, again, like we saw in the film. I was wondering how they were going to justify the leader class price point, and they've kind of done it by using a lot of additional accessories, which we'll talk about in just a second. But one of those is the transwarp key. Now, I think this is the first time in Studio Series history we're actually seeing the MacGuffin of a movie make it into the main line. So I'm kind of hoping, you know, in the future, maybe we could see a Matrix of Leadership from Revenge of the Fallen, the Allspark from the first movie, even maybe a Sentinel primary issue of the pillars that we saw in the Transformers 3 movie. But yeah, the transwarp key looks sick, very accurate to the film. It can be split into two components, and that is as far as I'll go into that because we may be treading into some slight spoiler territory. And then we get stuck into the robot mode. Now, they did make a specific mention that the bot mode will have inaccurate weapons because in the movie he never actually had the chain, but if you've checked out that first teaser trailer of Rise of the Beast that we got way back in December, Primal can be seen swinging those blades around. So I guess technically it is movie accurate. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's an additional accessory. I'm going to take it. It's got multiple hinge joints packed into it, which is sick. Both of the blades can be detached from the chain. You can combine them into the dual sword, much like we saw in the movie. And he will include the Energon axe for Rise of the Beast Optimus Prime. They mentioned that they couldn't quite fit that axe into the Buzzworthy Bumblebee package. So really awesome to see them include that here with Primal. And the robot mode definitely looks cool. What I will say is for this being a leader class, there are a few things which maybe I would have liked to have seen handled better. For example, the bot mode head won't have a retractable mouth gimmick, or at least they never mentioned it in the live stream. So he is just going to have the opening mouth. I don't believe we ever saw that in the movie. He always just appeared to have the mouth shield. So that does kind of suck. He'll also have quite a big backpack. Now, Optimus Primal has never had the most intricate transformation in the movie, in Beast Wars, etc. So I was definitely hoping they'd be able to minimalize this backpack, especially as the upcoming Ultimate Optimus Primal from Takara Tomy and even the mainline Voyager Primal were pretty streamlined in terms of their design. So yeah, that's a bit of a shame. And he also does just have the monkey feet hanging on the back of the bot mode legs, which again, I definitely think there were a better way that they could have packed them into the shins, much like we saw from that mainline version. And when we check out some of the in-hand shots of the beast mode from the back, unfortunately, it does look to be a little ugly, especially where the back of the legs are. You know, it does just seem like they kind of threw all of the junk to the back, you know, and not incorporated it within the figure. I do think maybe they could have pulled out a few additional tricks to hide some of this kibble, but yeah, it definitely does look to be an incredibly detailed figure. You know, the beast mode is even going to have an articulated mouth, which I think is awesome, you know, much like we saw from the Studio Series The Fallen, where you could rip up his face and the jaw would open and close. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to pick this one up, but I'm not entirely convinced that it will outshine that Ultimate Optimus Primal that Takara Tomy have coming out, because that does appear to again be a pretty sick looking Primal. There's a lot of Primal options on the market, you know, Hasbro definitely have to up their game. I'm kind of hoping maybe eventually they'll give us a masterpiece version of Optimus Primal to truly kind of refine some of the inaccuracies that we're seeing here for this Studio Series leader. And you know what, I wouldn't put it past Hasbro. I wonder if the reason why we are seeing some of these junky pieces hanging off the back of the legs is for Takara to take this into their MPM line and slightly refine this design, much like we saw from the MPM Blackout. You know, there were quite a few of us that didn't think they could ever improve on the Studio Series Blackout. Well, when they gave us the masterpiece, it was just a much cleaner, better looking figure overall. So yeah, maybe that is the reason why he has a bit of junk in the trunk, but incredibly impressed with the majority of the reveals that we saw for today, especially again with some of those Studio Series ones. You know, Mirage and Primal for the most part look awesome, especially Mirage, way nicer than that original CG shot that we saw. And the Legacy reveals, banger after banger after banger. There are only a few which I'm not too impressed about, mainly Bludgeon. I just think they could have done something slightly cooler, and that kind of core class playset, I definitely think they could have scrapped that idea and given us a core class kind of accessory pack with that G1 trailer. But you guys let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Out of everything which was revealed today, what is the figure that you guys are the most excited to pick up? And until my next video, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.